So many things I'd suppressed inside.
You know something? I have to play this track all the time because just the way it come across.
Depression. I said depression. When depression came, I didn't see the past in my life had caught up with me. The violent abuse I suffered as a child, my uni education that had been denied, so many things I'd suppressed inside, with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. In a pitch black tunnel with no light in sight, depression came like a thief in the night. Don't know if it came from the left or the right, but in denial I put up a fight with coke and alcohol abuse to make things right. My appetite for business and money was gone. Life became devoid of fun. A good woman was needed, but I couldn't find none. My chances were 1,000,000,000,000 to 1. As suicidal thoughts came along, it took much more than just being strong against a thing so forceful, not so easy to overcome. Alcohol and cocaine, they were the enemy and not my friends. But way back then, I didn't comprehend, as they anesthetized the pain, anger and torment. To forget the years of betrayal from family and friends, and women who came for financial gain. Massive burglaries I suffered again and again, feeling like an outcast with 1,000,000 friends. Committing murder appeared to be justified after the way that I'd been crucified, but somehow God kept me off that path, because only God could abate my wrath. Because only God could abate my wrath.
Yes, Tom Rock, a serious brother that we just love them vibes, you know. And yes. So first I want to big up each and those who came out Saturday. What a blast we had Saturday, you know. Enough people come. If I had to be critical, probably had too much workshops, so people's going back and forwards. And next time we just cut it down to only about 2. You know, but people full jar themselves. The information was powerful, so we'll big up to man like Kinsu, who gave a fantastic talk about the impact of family. Also we had Melvin Barrett talking about the power of the mind, talking about the brain. Lyndon talking about the language we use. Also, Philip was there as well, talking about taking responsibility for your health. Also, we had Sister Anne, who talked about why is it black men don't talk. Also, we had, what's the brother name again now? Blah, 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 blah. We had Chi, we talk about his journey in mental health. Also, we had, I'll get his name in a minute, right? Who talked about the approach we take in health scene. And it really was a powerful event. Right? I'm trying to look for the brother's name in a second, because it look bad if you mention everybody's name, you don't mention Fiem name. You know?
Self-centeredness gradually became deceased, cleansed with confession and forgiveness. I was no more a prisoner of the past. Now became the only place to be, with the future always looking bright. Now I know that darkness is always the absence of light. I repeat, now I know the darkness is always the absence of light.
What qualifies me to speak? Well, actually, this is my bread and butter. This is what I do for work. This is what I do for study. This is what I volunteer in.
Yes, the brother name is Ben. I forget Ben. We talked about the approach we use in mental health.
Obviously, if I'm
So I also want to thank all those who came out, those who helped as well. Big up the West Indian Cultural Center, the Find Your Voice crew and team every single time. Okay, then we're going to go straight into the chase.
And what can
we
you
have
do?
enough to discuss.
Are there
and we
people
have
in your
Paul,
family or around you
who's
that
done a lot of
are
work
not
in this particular
themselves?
area?
Or are we just
done a
passing it off and saying,
documentary,
that's how he's always
and he'll be talking about the kind of works he'll be doing. And I know doing a screening
I think this conversation
next week,
needs to happen
Thursday.
now. It's
I'm
not
gonna bring
just
Paul in the
white
mix
people,
very shortly.
middle class people that has depression, and we need to know what it looks like. Okay, so.
Okay then. So I want to bring Paul into the mix because we don't have time, because I'm a very busy man, and the way he talk to me, like I said, boy, don't have time these days, no. So he's a very precious man. In probably have a next engagement as well. I'm having family with him as well. So, and then man there, you can't even go into them on their personal business because we'll be here for another half an hour only scratching the surface because I'll tell the colleagues that him have a, we call it soapbox, And we look at the other day and say, wait. And then man, I know from time I go on them big things there, with so much focus around young people. See, in fact, I'll never forget it. He's one that told me, send me a clip where I was thinking about grooming. Yep. I was thinking about grooming, where the young people get groomed by the elders them, where they buy them to fast food like chicken and just groom them and get them to do some to run-ins and get them trapped. He's the first man who showed me on a WhatsApp clip. And in fact, I was talking to her sister because she had a whole seminar around this, So I was up to speed through Paul, Right? So, okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring my brethren Paul into the mix part. How you keep as a first thing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a blessing to be here today. It's like I heard you mention a while ago that we used to run street from a long time ago. It must be 20 years since we sat in the same space together. Right?
Yeah, man. Long
and
time.
Reason.
Yeah.
We used to reason
every
day.
Yeah, man.
Every day.
Yeah, but we used to be organized called PACE. You remember PACE?
Yeah, I remember PACE. I remember very, very, very proactive.
Very proactive
community organisation.
Yeah, very, very.
Again, still working to keep the community together.
Keep together, yeah.
This is years ago.
Yeah, man. So we have a history.
Yeah, man.
So, Paul, I want to bring into the mix straight away now because I know that it happens that everything's just working out. You have a documentary dealing with about mental health, and it looks in the eyes of young people. Yeah. So, what made you want to do a documentary focused around young people?
There's certain factors. Really, it's really, really easy for me to look at the root causes of much of what's going on. I mean, I'm not only addressing the violence on the streets. I'm talking about the general emotional state of most of our young people. And for years, and I, we've been noticing that the young people, they don't even seem to be themselves anymore. I've yet to see young people as happy as when we was growing up. They don't look free. They look like they've been imprisoned from time they're 8, 9 years old. And so much of my work is based around, smashing through the root causes, finding out what is it, because the media tells you one thing, but I'm not interested in what the media says about my child. I'm interested in what the media is pumping to perpetuate the behavior that it wants to report on. So I look at the areas that affect the community. You know, because in order to dismantle a community, and I said it, dismantle, because that looked like that's what's going on now, because every time you come out your house, there's less of a community.
It's true. Very true. Very true.
So there's a dismantling happening under our noses. So I just look at, for me, it's very common sense. What is it that's dismantling not only young people, the adults of the community? Why is it that adults of the community don't really care about where they live? They don't really care about they've got even less time for the young people now.
It's true.
And to me, I grew up in a community, and I'm just trying to return some of those values so that my children can leave their yard and see that their community is the place to be. You know, not the place to be afraid of. So when we talk about addressing, you know, issues like mental health and, you know, making short documentaries, none of it was challenging. It was all part of the work that needs to be done. You know, if the media is showing us as, or our young people as these, quote, devils, as I'm hearing adults call them now, you know, lock them all away, throw away the key. And I'm thinking to myself, if you throw away the key on your own children, that's a generation that's lost. That's lost, that's wiped out. And it's us using that narrative. Instead, we have to speak about how we can mend those children. You understand what I'm saying? How can we look out and go out into our community and mend those children? We can't open our door and say, oh, look, there they go again. They're the devil's children. No, they're your children. You understand? So for me, making a documentary about mental health just follows on from all of the other films I've made. I've addressed near enough every issue that a community could face.
Okay, then. So this documentary film you're going to do on mental health, what is it focused around? What is it looking to achieve from all of this?
Well, the whole point about making, it's not even a documentary, it's a drama. It's a dramatization. It's a drama
it's
about
a drama.
A young man with mental health issues.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of the film is to enable professionals and other young people to watch something that they can relate to, because a lot of it is communication. You know, because you have professionals who don't really understand young people, who are working in positions to help mend young people.
That's quite interesting. When you said that you have those professionals who don't understand young people, right? Just clarify it even more, because that's quite interesting. Because obviously for the last probably 2 or 3 months, I've been doing a lot of work around with mental health, and in fact, so I'm doing some voluntary work with mine. Basically, just come together once a week with men and just talk, some of a banter and talk, and you know, work through issues or whatever. Just come together. But you know, the more I start to, you know, talk to some people, I mean, don't get no respect. They know the stuff that's it, but they don't really understand the minds of young people. But that's my perspective still. You know what I mean?
It's an interesting perspective, because it's not just yours.
Yeah.
It's a generalization. A lot of professionals are professionals in something.
Yeah.
But in order for you to, this is my thing, right? Whether you have mental health issues or not, the person that is addressing your issues needs to be a communicator. They have to understand that you have to be able to be flexible in your communication. So if somebody comes to me and they've got an issue, I'm going to go into their model of the world to understand where they're coming from.
Right.
I'm not going to try and tell you that this is how you should be, because I don't know. I don't know if you see blue as blue or purple.
Yeah.
So I'm going to find out how you see blue, and then I'm going to work from where you are. A lot of the professionals are very textbook. You know, we know the cause and effect. We know that. But we don't know the in-between. We don't know that some of these young people here, and, you know, we were doing this thing the other day with, you know, who's really focusing on these young girls who have been passed around gangs. And they feel that it's okay to sleep with 10 or 20 men.
Yeah.
They feel it's okay. So what happens to those young women who are the mothers of tomorrow when they become mothers?
Yeah.
What happens to that unspent trauma?
Yeah.
How are they dealing with it?
Yeah.
You understand? Because I hear us talking about, oh, you know, the PTSD with the boys and this and that. What about the mothers of tomorrow? The ones that are going to be giving birth to children with trauma? Am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making more sense.
Yeah. So we have to start asking these professionals, Are you communicating the right message?
Yeah, and that's quite powerful you said there, because in my observation and just talking and reasoning, that when you start to dig even more, it's a lot to do with trauma, what they haven't dealt with, or it's got to come out some way,
You gotta let
I
it
mean, listen to my bedroom album there, Tom Rock, and one thing he was saying that because he spent many years in prison and he was high on crack cocaine and all kind of stuff. He was depressed. But when he started to trace back, a lot of it was abuse. He was abused from his father.
Yeah.
And he said he was a child. He was very timid. I mean, if dad said boo, he had jump.
Yeah.
And he had to leave. He left home when he was about 15, 16. He had to defend for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a lot of trauma.
A lot of trauma.
Unspent. He hasn't never addressed it.
Never addressed it. You see, and meaning reason about it's on the radio and that stuff. And he said that you get to understand that his dad went through certain kind of stuff as well.
Passing it on,
right? Went through certain kind of stuff, right? But he said that his dad wasn't really. In fact, his dad was kind of spoiled to some extent, right? To some extent, but he was saying that that with him now, he could trace it back because he had to. He was very timid, you know what I mean, and he had to do things in a rigid way, a military kind of way. Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be a punishment.
You see what I'm saying?
And so for him, it is, for him expressing that led to crime
and everything.
And like you said before, 30 years in prison,
Yeah.
which is a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
And maybe in his mind that was escaping.
Escapism.
You understand? Because
also to jump in there, that don't forget, he was taking the crack, cocaine, heroin, right? But he used it as a mask to cover the pain we was going through,
because he hadn't dealt with it.
Just haven't dealt with it. So it come up to what you're saying earlier on. What we're saying is that, I mean, if you haven't dealt with the trauma, right? Because we're all gonna go through some challenges, right? But it's how you deal with it. And some people just hold it, and it's just gonna come out.
It's gonna come out. It's
Yeah.
gonna come out. Should I tell you something else that's interesting, right? Okay. All right. So the present, I'm gonna call it a trend of knife and gun crime on the streets, murders on the streets. It's a trend. Yeah. It's a human trend. Okay. And this human trend has a stage where it reaches saturation, where it reaches even humans alone in the most heinous situations start turning around. That's how we exist as humans. Yeah. So my theory is this, going back to mental health. So because now we have a lot of young people, boys and girls, who are committed to these other groups. They're in gangs, 20, 30 of them, yeah, who protect each other. And so they become their families. And so imagine this for a minute. So somebody in that group or the whole group commits these so-called knife and gun crimes against other young people. Now, what happens when the trend starts to decline? And when I say the trend starts to decline, I mean, as humans do, my man's got a new girlfriend, he's going to get on with his life. We get on with life. The gang disbands. It doesn't last till you're 60. Now, what happens to the ones in that group who didn't release the emotion? And they've seen people killed. They've been passed around gangs and raped. Do you understand? I'm talking boys as well. What happens to their trauma? So this...
Sorry, Paul. We might take this live caller because people want the burden to come in. Greetings. Oh, sorry. Beg your pardon. Greetings,
Dougie.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me okay?
You can hear you good, man.
Okay.
All right. You listen.
So how are we this evening?
Everybody good,
Who's everybody?
Oh, they were here, my brethren, Paul. It's Paul Mckenzie. He's doing a documentary around mental health, and he talk about trauma and that stuff there.
Okay, he's in the studio.
He's in the studio right now.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Greetings.
Yes.
Yes.
So we was talking about trauma, but hold on, Paul, just talk about Just finish what you were saying, me go, Paul.
About the trend.
About the trend, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you caught the last part as a listener, but what I'm trying to highlight is that at the moment what we have is a generation of young people that are surviving and coping with their emotional structures because they're part of a bigger, let's call it an organization called a gang. Yeah, they've got a support system. Now my problem is this, and this is why I'm starting to change my approach to dealing with young people as a whole, is that when the trend starts to go into decline and you have these young boys and young girls that are now on their own and they haven't got the support of the 20 or 30 different OFB or whatever it is gangs, they don't have the support of that no more because everybody's getting on with their lives. And so you have the dynamics where the strong will go on. What happens to the weak ones? What happens to the girls that have been passed around and raped continuously because they had the support of the gangs and because when they were in those gangs it was normal? What happens to the boys that have been sent out to stab people because it's normal in that structure? Social construct, yeah? Now what happens when that construct changes and now you're left on your own? And my prediction is this is what we need to prepare for as an organization is those lone mental health incidents where you have a young man who has not dealt with the trauma of seeing him and his friends hack people to, some of the crimes that are not being reported they're heinous. Some of the injuries that they're witnessing, some of the things, most of these boys walking around with stab wounds to themselves. Now when that support system is gone, you're going to have a fragmented community of young men with mental health issues that are starting to display those on their own.
Okay. Well, I know Kinso, he did a whole heap of stuff around everything about trauma and where we've been conditioned and so forth. And it'd be wise for Kinso just to come in.
So, is it Paul, is it?
Yeah,
Paul, yeah.
Yeah, so what is it that you actually do in the community? What's your position, your role?
Oh, I run a company called Soapbox. I do a lot of highlighting issues in the community. I'm also a mentor, 25 years experience in the community, and generally a filmmaker as well.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm actually at the moment working towards highlighting county lines and grooming.
Sorry, say that again, sorry?
County lines and grooming.
Okay. Right, so county line and grooming.
Yeah.
So that's relating to on the street that you mentioned, the gangs and so forth. So that's relating to when they're out on the street and what's happening on the street?
No, I'm talking about when they've left the street. I'm talking about when they've no longer got the support of their so-called brethrens or the other members of that gang. They're actually living and trying to survive in a world that they're now on their own. I'm talking about really what I'm saying in generalization is they're growing up.
So what would you say is the source of all of this, the root cause to all of this?
I would say you see that, brother, I wish he was here right now because if you look on my channel, there's a lot of brainwashing happening at the moment. There's a lot of brainwashing happening. There's a lot of things that contribute towards behavior. And for me, for the last couple of years, I've been saying that every behavior that's been exhibited on the streets has been fed from somewhere above. And from somewhere above. And I say that because an example is I approached one of the main radio stations the other day and asked why they play grime music in the school run. Why they play music that talks about sex, drugs, violence, throw away your education and go out of town to sell drugs. On rotation from 8:15 to 9 a.m. every single morning. And this is a socially responsible, this is capital extra. Every single morning they play that when you're bringing your child to school or the hours that, so there's no watershed on what our young people get to listen to. Now I know we got social media that feeds them 24 hours a day, but these stations call themselves socially responsible. And yet you only hear music which is demeaning coming from people that look like us. You can never hear the Ed Sheerans and the whoever the other top selling artists are. They sell billions of records. They don't swear. They don't talk about drugs. They don't talk about throw your education away. And they're selling billions. But yet for us, at 8:15 in the morning, when it should be that quiet time, that sensible time, because you're just about to go into school to learn, half of the children are jacked up on music talking about violence.
So let me ask, so are we saying that the anger, the pent-up anger, the lack of value towards life,
Partly.
and just the whole ruthless type of mindset that we're seeing today, are we saying it's coming from there, has nothing to do with the household?
I'm saying that whatever happens in your household, and I do a lot of seminars around values, beliefs and values as well, and you have to understand that there's a structure for beliefs and values in any human being. Now, between the ages of 0 and 7, that child takes the values and beliefs of the house. Within those 4 walls, they believe everything you say within those, between 0 and 7. Now, what happens is, between the ages of 8 to 13, 14, 15, which is the effect, if you look what's happening now, they look outside for values, because all they're doing is testing your values. So I'm just checking to see whether Dad said that alleyway is dangerous. I'm just checking to see whether Dad was right about smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or mixing with the wrong people. We have to test those as human beings, otherwise we become robots to the values of the house. So what's happening is, at these crucial ages, the children's minds have been influenced by, because when you're looking outside the house, you generally look for role models. You generally look for somebody that can influence us. And they even call them that now, influencers. So they pay people to influence other people's minds. And so between the ages of 8, 13, 14, 15, which are some of the crucial ages when you're growing up for values and beliefs, these young people have got no positive role models. And I know they're talking about, but these artists are out there making money and they're showing that you can make money. But why can't you make money singing about something that's not talking about killing your brother, raping your sister? This morning on the radio, we're listening to lyrics that's saying, and it's the presupposition of this lyric, it was a very clever metaphor. It was saying that I've just gone with a girl, and you probably heard the lyric, and now I'm going to finish on her face. 8:15 in the morning. Tell me what other genre of music or what other race of people would even allow that to take place in it? Nobody. But we just listen to it and accept it. I'm saying this, right? Between those ages of 8 to 13, 14 to 15, this is where the men in the community have to step up and be visible role models. This is the crucial point. So when I'm listening to my dad in my house telling me one thing, I need to go out in the community, and somebody else in the community needs to say, your dad's right. Am I making sense? Your dad's right. Yeah, your dad said don't go down the alleyway. I'm backing your dad up. But when they leave the house now, there's nothing there. There's nothing there.
You know why that's not there? You know why that's not there?
Why is that not
It's
there?
because that generation, our generation, I don't know what your age is, sorry, I don't want to assume, but that a lot of the older generation, they are lost because of what happened to them as children. When you mention about 0 to 7, that's the key area. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And when you mention about cigarettes, the reason they smoke cigarettes because they are suffering mental pain. The cigarettes is like a soother. That all drugs become soothers or medication to the trauma that they experience in those first 7 years predominantly. You know, I agree with what you're saying, but the role models out there, they were traumatized themselves. My thing is, no one's addressing the trauma and the parenting, because that's the root cause. What you're doing is fine, I'm saying, but I'll give you an example. Yeah. I went to the Black Child Agenda event in Birmingham last week or week before, right?
Cheryl Phoenix, yeah.
And listen, and Cheryl Phoenix and 10 speakers, right? Black Child Agenda, and nobody addressed childhood trauma.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Why I think that is because most of us who are speaking out there are obviously traumatized ourselves, and the toxic shame and the pain is preventing us from facing the very problem. So we're not able to face the root of the problem because we have to look within ourselves, and it resurfaces that very pain. So that's the problem. Is our main problem is confronting raw truth. That's the obstacle.
So don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you. There's a lot of pain and a lot of trauma. So you're saying let's just go back because you did mention cigarettes. So anybody that smokes a cigarette or drinks alcohol or abuses drugs, you're saying has unspent trauma.
What I'm saying is, predominantly most times it does come from there. But what I'm saying is, there's an emotional pain that they're soothing from sugar to salt to crunchy foods to creamy foods like snacks. That's the basics. Then alcohol, cigarettes, crack, heroin. All of these are drugs. They're just like pharmaceutical drugs. Pharmaceutical drugs also act as pain relief, obviously, but they have side effects. Just like weed has side effects, cigarette has side effects, alcohol, they all have side effects. So I classify them as pharmaceutical drugs. But they're drugs. I'm not saying they're safe and good drugs, but they are drugs. People are using them to soothe. You see?
Yeah.
Do you understand? So this is more... Not necessarily that they all suffered... But let me say this. Childhood trauma is literally inescapable for every human being, but it's to what degree? Now, the black people are suffering a unique degree of childhood trauma. The Asians have their degree, the Chinese have their degree, but we need to look at our degree as people who have gone through one of the most worst Holocausts. You see? So, yes, what you're saying is right, but what my issue is
how do we start to address that root cause?
Okay.
Because that's what I'm interested in. Is how do we start to address that root cause?
First of all, it's awareness, and we need to learn about what the effects of it. This is one of my campaigns that I'm launching out on slowly but surely, is to bring the awareness, and then from there start to bring awareness to things like therapy, because black people look at therapy as something for mad people. Now there's two ways I can address that.
Well,
I can say,
we do have a big carpet that we
you are
stuff
mad.
under, innit?
Yeah, but listen, we are mad when you. And I explained this last week, and it's in my book what I've written. We are mad to a degree, but it's the owning of these things, and pain is not a bad thing. Pain is a part of life. Joy and pain is a balancement of life. But we keep kicking out the pain, and in kicking out the pain, we kick out the joy. It's like kicking out the throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You see what I'm saying? So we need to understand life. And
I completely agree with you.
You understand?
I completely.
Yeah, so it's the root. That's the root cause I'm saying, brother. That's what I'm saying. That the root cause. And to be honest, I'm not going to go on too much. But when I attended the Black Childhood Agenda, I was amazed to see 10 speakers and nobody. And the thing is that they're doing, brother. Everybody's blaming. They're blaming the social services. They're blaming the schools. That's a result of trauma. They're deflecting the trauma. They're absolving their sins. They're looking a scapegoat for their own pain. That's what we do.
So let me just go back to when Dougie introduced me, and one of the crucial things about the videos that I make, there are videos such as, real life people addressing the pain and the trauma. And there is one man in particular, and you probably have seen him out there in the public, Stephen Brown. He's a very, very well-known youth activist. And so I interviewed him, and we spoke about exactly what you're saying there, about the pain and the trauma, which created a lot of resentment in him, and he ended up in prison doing all sorts of things throughout his life because he didn't address the abuse that he suffered as a child. So I'm completely in agreement with what you're saying. The challenging thing is to put together a workshop that deals with root causes is not going to be very well attended, because like you said, pain is what we avoid doing. Many years ago I attended, and we're in Tottenham now, number 10. At number 10 there was an amazing workshop there, and it was called a Rites of Passage. And you know what that enabled me to do in that Rites of Passage? It was a 2-hour workshop, and it was one of the best workshops I've ever been to. And I haven't seen it done again in this way. And what this workshop address was the trauma that your parents were going through. And you had to take 2 A4 pieces of paper and write down what you think your parents were going through when they had you. And I tell you, because I grew up in a household which I could see domestic violence all day, every day. But doing that rites of passage enabled me to see why my father was frustrated. It enabled me to go into his shoes and into my mum's shoes. Does that make sense? And that's what built the foundations of the way I deal with relationships right now. Because I was able to look from a third person and say, okay, maybe you can't just call somebody an abuser without finding out why they abuse.
Why they abuse, yeah.
And so by knowing why he abused, I could see the frustration that fed that. And then I learned to understand my dad in a better way.
I just want to run. Sorry, Kinso. I just want to run on what Brother Paul said. It kind of ties into what you was talking about a couple of weeks ago. That in terms of your studies and your research, that those who involved in domestic violence or abuse individuals, right? They themselves have been abused as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you gave you talked about some particularly this madman was killed enough people, but look at his background. He was
Abused.
Abused,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, no, from my understanding, there's no children are born evil.
Do you know one of my sayings is that the child is never the behavior. You understand? So when I sit there with a child and I'm mentoring a child, the child I remove from the behavior.
From the behavior, yeah.
So let's talk about why you're behaving like that.
Yeah.
Because you were born pure.
Pure, yeah.
Why are you behaving like that?
Yeah. Sure. But let me say, I mean, we had an event on Saturday, Paul, and I did a presentation there addressing and giving my story.
Yeah.
Because I've been through all of that, what we're talking about, drugs, everything.
Yeah.
And prison, everything. You understand? So, and to be honest with you, I would say it was received quite well. I had a lot of good feedback at the end.
Yeah.
And just in your reference to the workshop, I think it's definitely time. It's definitely time. And the fact that you're speaking out, we're speaking out, it's time. And I definitely will be attended, to what degree, of course. But you see, the more we speak about it, the more it becomes acceptable or understanding and acceptable. You see? Because I'm speaking to many people, it's only when we speak that do they feel safe to speak their truth.
Yeah. It's only when we get to the stage where you could have a room with 4 or 5 men who I'm talking about, 4 or 5 black men who are open about their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you can start seeing a change in the community, when the next man can meet a next man and talk about their emotions. Instead of having to wear this mask of...
that's there now.
Yeah. It's happening now, and it's happening through, people like yourself who are addressing the issue. And it seems like it's a slow process, but if it happens with one, he would tell the other person.
Well, I think this is where Kinsley was talking about that. I mean, he has to start by being truthful, because as Kinsley said to me, his last presentation said that we look in the mirror, and if you're not being truthful, you're a fraud. You know what I mean? He was
fake.
He's the biggest fraud.
You're fake news.
Yeah, fake. You know what I mean? Right. So, and you're right that it'll come down when men come in a circle and just talk as men and talk about what's really bothering them. What's really hurting them.
Yeah.
What is it? You know what I mean? And they would just naturally just come out and talk about certain things, you know what I mean? Because a lot of things we do, it's really just a mask. We see a man I go on like I'm a bad man, I'm a tech.
The weak man.
Yeah, deep down. It's just really a mask.
He needs help. He needs help.
You know what I mean? I never mean it might make open eyes a little, but deep down, there's something was really trauma we hasn't dealt with.
Yeah. We as men, in our community, we as most of the men I come across, I call them, they're almost like they're walking presuppositions.
Yeah.
You're not really that, but
yeah.
you're pretending to be that.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then mental health issues is just around the corner for you.
Well, it is mental health.
And this is what's
Yeah, but
happening now.
listen,
It is
Popping up.
but come on, we've got to take it easy though.
Yeah.
Because
No,
you know what?
Yeah.
We're talking about defense mechanisms here, and if you go right to the most chronic of defense mechanisms, known as narcissism or psychopath, right? These are defense mechanisms. We must understand. Even those madmen that I mentioned back before, Richard Kukinis or whatever, serial killer, Hitler, all these people that we
narcissists,
you know, and defame. These are defense mechanisms. Hitler was beaten up by his dad every day, the reports say, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying no child is born evil. So you know, we have to be careful that just like we wouldn't disrespect or ridicule a person with diabetes or cancer, we have to kind of understand that these are also diseases of the mind.
It's like
you know,
like trauma.
And not to, you know, and it's defense. All of this, what you're calling a bad boy on the street, I grew up amongst them. I've been for all of that. So when you're calling bad boy on the street, it's a defense mechanism.
But that's what we're saying. That's what we were saying. That's what we're saying.
Trauma transmuted as power.
It is a mechanism, but it is a mask, though.
It's definitely.
It's a mask, but you see, it's a mask, but it's a defense mechanism first.
Right. That's right.
So it's a defense mechanism first.
So the challenge is
down first.
Yeah. So the challenge is, how do you speak to another person, or how do you enable somebody to remove that mask and look in that mirror in your own eyes and say, "This is who I am." You may not be the strongest person, but you have to say to yourself in the mirror, "I need help."
Well, not everybody is going to be able to crack that prison, break out of that prison, right? That's number one. But number two, the only way that's going to happen is like we're saying here, is when we speak our truth. And you see what it is? This is what, as therapists or counselors or whoever we are, we have to learn to touch human beings at a place where it touches. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We've got to learn that as therapists. We don't know it. We've got to learn to touch human beings at a place where it touches the core.
So
otherwise, we need to move along. You know what I'm saying?
I just want to clarify that, because you open up some deep reasoning, sir, and people might be listening and say, "Well, what does he mean by that?" And I'm saying as well, to touch them where they are.
All right.
Yeah, go on.
Fair enough. It's like there was an example. I was talking to someone the other day about this, but it's like, all right. On the negative side, a person can learn to basically irritate someone at their worst point, right? If you know someone, you can say the worst thing that they could ever hear in their life and drive them crazy and flip them into aggression, right?
Yeah.
Now, dealing with the law of polarities, why can't we learn to do the same thing on the other side? From the peaceful, the loving, and touch them at a place where it will literally melt them, where they basically they drop their defenses.
Exactly.
You know, where they connect with you. You're touching them at a place where there's no way they can be aggressive, no way they can maintain that hard shell. But I'm not saying permanently, but while in that moment you can touch them at a place, and that's the start of it. You touch them at a place in your reasoning from soul to soul. But you have to be genuine, and you have to know yourself, and you have to have dealt with your unresolved issues. You have to be open.
Right.
You see, we have to be open to do that, and that's what I'm saying. We've got to learn that. So some of us are further along the line. We've got to learn that to help the others, and it keeps going on from there.
We've got to teach.
That's the only way.
We've got to teach each other that it's safe to do that.
Yes,
it's okay.
Touching them, brother.
Touching them is you understand?
Key. It's something that I'm learning.
Yeah.
It's touching them at a place where, because what I'm saying is, like we say, a baby is not born evil.
Yeah.
What we've got to learn to connect to that point before the closure. It's still there in each and every one of us. But before the closure, there's still that delicate spiritual heart, that soul is there, of course. But it's been encased by solidified emotion.
Absolutely.
But there's always a gap. Because you cannot seal up the soul completely. There's a gap. That's why when you take drugs and stuff and all these medications, eventually they wear off.
Yeah.
Because there's a gap. The pain will always leak out.
No,
You see, so we got to get in touch with that side of things.
So would you say then, from what you're saying, that we need to show love?
Listen, yes, most definitely, but we got to understand what love is.
Yeah,
now,
correct,
as we journey, you see, what I'm saying here will automatically come to each and every one of us as we journey within.
Yeah.
It will just come, we just understand. Because you touch base with your own self in that way. It's self-compassion. Mm-hmm. As you touch base with your own self in that way, you know exactly how to touch another person. Mm. This is how life is, because there is no my life. My life, your life, his life. No, there's just life.
Just life. I completely agree with you. You know,
so you understand? It's just life, and the moment we get back to that, then it's no looking. You're already there. You're in.
So you're saying you're saying don't listen to Capital Extra. In a nutshell, because you know when I used to do counselling, I used to do Gestalt therapy. Yeah, and the fundamentals of that is releasing the first event of trauma. Yeah, and that's what Gestalt is. The most important thing is the first event, because that's when you install that initial trigger or that initial trauma. Okay. And so part of that was with the difficult part of it was getting somebody to understand that you need to go back to the first time. And when you go back to the first time, you release the emotions from it, and then it releases every subsequent emotion from there.
Okay, but all right, let me just zoom to what Brother Paul said, right? So when you go back to the first event and you trigger off the emotion, how do you get rid of the emotion? How do you deal with that? How do you get rid of the emotion?
I mean, there's a process involved. I'm a certified timeline therapist and also a master NLP practitioner. So part of that, what I did in that time was you got to understand that, and it's a really interesting thing because inside your mind, every event inside your mind is only a memory, isn't it? Yeah. So you carry memories. Yeah. And so there are processes to take emotions out of memories. You leave the memory there, but you take the emotion out. So and I'll give you an example, is this. Part of the work was taking people back to the very first event, and let's use abuse for example. Somebody comes into the room, an abusive act takes place. Now imagine now if you had the wisdom that you have now to talk to that perpetrator. If you could replace that emotion that you have now with the wisdom to when you were 6 years old, your mind automatically reduces the emotions. So the process is to reinstall what you know now and what you would have said had you known into that young age.
But that's quite interesting because
it's called timeline therapy. You could check that out.
Yeah,
but
it's quite interesting because I went to a workshop. It's to do with relationship, in fact, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's my brethren put his workshop on. And one of the things we had to do, right, that you had to let go. And, for example, say you're my dad now, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right?
All right, son.
Right? And I would say to you, Dad, you remember the time when you used to abuse me and whip me in front of people and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You don't say nothing to me, right? You acknowledge and say, okay, I'm sorry, son, or whatever. So what that does that, you're able to let go, all that stuff was happening, blah, blah, blah.
But
yeah?
Yeah.
And vice versa, you could be, say you have, you're my mum or whatever there. I say, my mum used to do this. So you're able to go back into time and release that.
The more important question is this. I release you, Dad, but I need to know why you did it.
I never thought about that. So, I never thought about that.
See the question, because we're quick to say, I forgive you. But let's not forgive before talking about it. What were you going through when you picked up the piece of wood and beat me in the head with it? Where were you in your life?
No, I understand what you're saying. So what you're saying really that you need to understand
root causes.
What root causes why he done that we done.
Because you can't forgive. And then he goes to the grave
there's going to be an area where, well, why did it take place? I've forgiven him for what he did, or I've forgiven her for what she did, but I need to know what made you do that. Were you abused? Were you dealing with unspent trauma? I need to know that.
Okay. Kinzo, you want to come in there, sir, because this is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Right there, sir. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Definitely, the understanding is key. It's all that awareness of understanding the multi-generational trauma, what's coming through. Yeah, that's definitely very important. Yes, I agree with that. I think I would add that, it's kind of what you're saying, the anger, we were not allowed to have our anger. So, going back and having the anger, expressing it, because that's what I'm saying about the youth today are carrying that pent up anger that they weren't allowed to have in many cases, So going back and release, there's various processes, I've done certain processes. I've done quite a lot of inner child work to that, to that regard. But there's other processes. I mean, there's things which I know about trance. You can go. Basically, trance is dealing with age regression. Pseudo time travel, hallucination. We can go into all of that, and we can alter that. Those are some of the things
before the womb.
Sorry? I've heard of that also before the womb.
That's before the womb.
I'm not, to be honest, before the womb, that's not something that I'm so fond of, because I believe it started in the womb as well, but more so, I think the predominant aspect of it is outside of the womb, like the ages you mentioned, 0 to 7, for real.
Some people would say some people would say they've been carrying generational trauma. How is that possible if it's not from before the womb?
That's when they go into the genes. But I'm talking about, I'll give more credence to epigenetics, where it's how the genes are framed by the environment.
Yeah.
I give more credence to that. So we definitely got stuff coming through multi-generational. But what I'm seeing, that multi-generational is expressed in the household, in the environment.
Okay,
see? And then it's expressed onto the progeny. So I think that part there is so important.
So it's transferred. Yeah. No, this is just an amazing conversation. You see, it's conversations like this that most of these radio stations should be having.
Yeah.
They should be having these conversations so men can listen in and understand that they need to find their center. They need to find out who they are, because you remember that the other thing we haven't really spoke about is identity and mental health.
Powerful, very important.
You understand? Because if you don't know who you are, then you're such. I went to a workshop held by the Tavistock, and I'm going to ask you this question. Tavistock Institute held a workshop on mental health, and they put a question out to a predominantly black audience that said, do you know what the number one cause of mental health issues are in your community? And I'm going to ask you two, what do you think? The number one cause of mental health issues?
Yeah, it's definitely identity. I'll tell you why.
No, hold on, let me ask Dougie.
Okay. I would say identity, not knowing who you are.
But when you say not knowing who you are, you see, that goes deeper. In my book, I dealt with, I got a chapter called Know Thyself to Heal Thyself, right? And I dealt with it from an esoteric and an exoteric. See, so the exoteric would be the physical, black, African, etc., 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 right? But the esoteric is now talking about your connection to the cosmos, your cosmosian first, your universal being first. And this is a problem again what we're having, because in ancient days they didn't educate a child until the child had, because education is powerful, so you do not empower a child until they have the proper identity, because identity is the hand that controls the intellect. Intellect is like a knife. Intellect can chop up everything. It's brilliant tool. But if it's held by the wrong knife, the wrong identity, it will chop up the wrong thing. I've done that myself. You see what I'm saying? So identity is key. Before you empower an individual, you should and connect them to their true identity, which is the cosmos. It's all good talking about African and Jamaican or whatever, but those are smaller identities, and they cause you to detach from humanity.
Absolutely. Can I tell you what she said? What she said? The number one cause of mental health issues in the black community is the presupposition of racism.
Sorry, the what?
The presupposition of racism.
When you say
Okay, let me give you an example. I'm a relatively tall black.
I would question that still.
Okay, I know, but this is Tavistock. They deal with behavioural science.
Yeah.
So, incidentally, them are the same people that build the constructs that we. Anyway, right.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
but never mind. So me as a black man, 6'5" black man.
Yeah.
When I walk into a place, I think about my blackness.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I used to work in the city in a solicitor. Every single morning I walk into the door, I think about my colour in this place. No other race has to. When I walk in down a road and there's a woman coming, I'm thinking to myself, I bet she thinks I'm going to mug her.
Right.
When I go into a shop and ask to see an expensive watch, I bet they think I'm going to... The presupposition of racism is not necessarily evident. So we spend a lot of time working out who we are and how we're going to explain our identity.
Okay then. No, me understand what you're talking about from that perspective. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So me as a black man, a professional black man, when I go to an AGM and I turn up in my baseball cap and my old shorts and everybody's sitting in there in a suit, the only thing they can read from me is that brother knows his identity.
Yeah.
He ain't scared of us. He's not like the rest. Because the rest of them would be turning up in 4-piece suits, polished shoes, trying to blend in. But I turn up because I know my identity. And I've documented it because I've got YouTube videos where I've been speaking at police AGMs in shorts and baseball cap. And I've addressed the elephant in the room straight away with them.
That's quite interesting.
But I believe if you attach them, if they're attached properly at the right age, they will overlook skin color and that nationality and so forth.
Cosmos.
They'll be empowered at a level. They will know who they are. They will know how to be who they are, but they'll be operating on a frequency above, skin color.
There you go.
So Kinsu, just to get some clarity, because we're going some serious reasoning, sir. So what you're saying really that we need to connect ourselves to what? To the
cosmos.
Well, listen, Dougie.
Yeah.
Listen, this is another issue, right? Because let me throw out something really controversial here. Right. Now, many of us talk about what the white man done and so forth, right? And we go through that. Now, think about this first of all. If we're walking around with that, we're carrying that burden there, and we're despising another man because of what we learned that things took place in history, which is also some taking place now. We accept that.
Yeah.
But when we're walking around with that, then where does that place us in the universal scheme, in the scheme of humanity?
Right.
How have we separated ourselves from certain human beings?
Traumatized.
You see, and then if we have, how does that really relate to us and life? Because life is love and love is life. How does that really relate to us? Are we blocking life from working through us?
So would you say we're blocking our consciousness then?
Well, you can't if you have any disregard for another human being.
Yeah.
You see, then where does it put you? I'm not trying to condone anything that's taken place or excuse anything, and the accountability needs to be placed where it needs to be placed, and responsibility needs to be taken up. But then, is it our position to hold grudges and judgment and separate ourselves from human beings? You see, because my big question to most people is that if you meditate or anything like that, and you've experienced a bliss, most people who have meditate or they've carried out certain kind of spiritual aerobics will have experienced some form of bliss at some point, and feel that they've connected into the divine, however we want to interpret it.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying at that point, is there any racial difference at that point when you experience that bliss?
I think, you know,
There's none.
Thank God you said that on radio, because no, honestly, I say that, right, because the last meeting I went to, and I've been going to so many meetings, and then I went to 23 meetings on youth violence in the space of 8 weeks, until I got to the stage where I said, I'm only going to attend meetings that don't start 400 years ago. Do you understand that? Because every time we congregate or get together, we have to quantify the trauma all over again.
Yes.
So there's a room full of traumatized people. All over again. You've seen it, Dougie. You've been to events where somebody will tell you that I got a white man do this, and they'll spend 3/4 of that session talking about the trauma, as opposed to talking about the remedies.
Yes.
And so I refused to go to any meeting. And I said it. I stood up. It was in part of you. I'm sure you wasn't there. And I said it. And I said I refuse to come to any more meetings that start 400 years in the past.
Yeah.
Because I know what happened already, and I don't need you to keep reminding me. So when you're talking about the cosmos, and when you start operating at that level, you're quite right. You don't see color.
Yes.
You see love. Love is what resonates in every vibrational state. So you don't even see color. But we're operating in a construct where we're told to focus on our color.
Yes.
And that's what the challenge is for us. We're told to focus on the past.
Sorry to cut you, but most people, they say, most of us black people, we say we're spiritual and we're spiritual beings having a physical experience.
That's right.
And so forth and so forth and so forth. But then, so what are you dealing with the skin color for then? What's that a big thing?
No, but
what's that a big thing?
No, they get upset.
I'm not disrespecting it.
You're upset with me now.
My website is the Melanin Clinic website, Melanin Clinic. So I'm not, disregarding these things, but everything needs to be prioritized. You see what I'm saying?
But
so it's like if we're a spiritual being having a physical experience, the body comes from the earth, it's generated by or accumulated by the food we've eaten. The memories, you mentioned the memories, most of our thoughts and our mind is on memories or impressions, that we have gathered over the years. So what is the real you? What is the real essence? It's beyond body and beyond mind. So what, we keep, our arguments are coming from the premise of the body and the mind. But then we say we're spiritual beings.
So this is Dougie. This is turning. You should have recorded this. You should be selling this on DVDs. Right. Here's the thing. Right. So what you're saying, and this is what I'm getting, right? Because I've got to get out of here soon, because otherwise we're going to a different area.
Yeah.
And then,
no, me too.
So what we're saying is, us as a people who are focusing on being a conscious people should be focusing on being a unconscious people. We have to learn to love unconsciously.
Say no more.
We have to learn to love. We have to learn to do what we do without thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Tap into the essence.
But
yeah, man.
Yeah, but would you say it's a process we have to go through?
So everything is a process. Everything is a process. After the breath we breathe is a process. Everything is a process. But we're gonna start. We're gonna start meaningfully, and we're gonna be, sincere. This is the thing. Yeah. We're gonna be sincere. That's the hardest thing to do. To look past the pain and the ego, and sincerity. That's what we need.
You know what you're talking about. From you said that, you know what you're talking about.
To deal with
look
the pain.
beyond the pain and the ego, and be sincere. Like you said before.
Oh yeah.
Remember, said no. Don't forget. You said this all the time, right? And never forget. You said that we look in the mirror. If you're not honest with yourself, you is a fraud.
Yeah, man. No, it would tell you because the real being, is looking back at you and tells you that. It's not that you're a fraud. I'm not saying nobody's a fraud. I'm saying if you're out there.
If you're not honest with yourself, though.
No, hold on. Yeah, Dougie. I'm saying, that's right. If you're out there and you're not being honest, like many people are not now, because we gotta qualify it.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
It was shut down through the trauma, early childhood. Because our parents couldn't manage our authenticity. So it was shut down. But one thing I would say is, when you're a child, you're not really responsible for what happens to you. But when you're an adult, you're 100% responsible for correcting it.
Absolutely.
You see? So what we're saying is, when you look in the mirror, if you're fronting, the being tells you you're fronting.
Yeah.
Tells you you're fronting. It's there. Everybody knows. Everybody is aware of the truth and aware of the hidden truth and how their soul was shaped by the trauma and how they sold out. Everybody is aware of it. Some people tuck it away. Some to different degrees we tuck it away at times. But everybody knows. It goes back to what I was saying about the soul leaks. You cannot confine the soul 100%. Never. Impossible. That's life.
Well, say that again.
You cannot confine your life essence, your soul, the consciousness, the real you cannot be permanently and completely confined. You can confine it to a degree.
Leaks out.
It's going to leak. It's always going to leak because it's life. Listen, the room you're in now, can you seal up all the oxygen in that room right now without any comment? It's going to seep through.
Yeah.
So this is life.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, so when it seeps through, it always reflects in the mirror.
You have to become the
degree.
oxygen again.
Yeah.
That's what it
You know?
is. Yeah.
Boy, Dr. Kid, boy, I didn't show again some deep reason, but boy, this is just music to the ears, Bridget. But tell the truth. This music. All right.
But listen, we're going to have to end it here because, all right, Paul, we have to link up, my brother.
Yes, my brother. What a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
Yes,
What a
definitely. Appreciate it.
needed conversation.
Yeah. And before that come down.
So let's do it again. Let's set up a event. So
let's just speak to Dougie.
Let's do it properly.
No, we definitely do it again, man, because I learned so much, from the reason, sir. But, this is, like I said, this is music to the ears, man. This is just food talk. Food talk. Okay, my Bridget, big up his status now, yeah?
One love, brother.
One love.
Yeah, man. Nothing. So, Dougie, give Paul my number, and what you can do, Paul, just text me a link, and then I'll concrete the link, yeah?
Okay, all right, yeah.
All right, brother, all right, respect. One love.
Yeah, man. Love,
all right,
man.
Blessing.
Cameron, give me one of them cards.
Ereline. Ereline was my
That was a good
best friend,
conversation.
my cousin and girlfriend. I never ever had to pretend. We lived close together by the sea, on the beach of Lagon. I loved the beauty of her mind and skin, and her spirit deep within. That's my Ereline, childhood sweetheart and darling. So when I had to leave, I was so...
Okay, so before I leave the studio, I'd just like to mention again that on the 4th of July, I call it Independence of the Mind Day. You can come along and see the screening of the film called Sick, which is a film made by young people addressing the trauma and mental health issues that young people experience in the community. The event is taking place at 399 High Road, Tottenham. Some of you know it as T Chances, between the hours of 7 and 9 p.m. You can get the Eventbrite. I think you'll find it on Eventbrite and Just Tickets, or you can hit me on Facebook, Paul Mckenzie. You'll find all the details there, or on Soapbox, Real Talking Inspiration.
Okay then, and this we're gonna be in many conversations with Paul because listen, man, boy, my brain cells start for work. Yeah, this is good, man. This was very, very. I can't find words. Good, and that's how a man should probably reason. Good reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's food, man. This is food. I feel on a high now. All right, then. So Paul's going to make a slight exit, and then we'll continue the reasoning still.
My heart was filled with much despair. When I was summoned to L'Angleterre to reside with my parents, that was certain. Though powerless, I resisted till the final curtain. My elder said, "Son, don't you want to see the snow?" I, the little boy, spontaneously replied with an impertinent no. "Why?" they exclaimed, looking puzzled and hard. I, the little boy, replied, "I see the snow on Christmas cards." So with Mammy I went one day on a rowing boat to the big ship Genoa. So colossal it caused dismay. Venezuela was the first port of call as we cruised and sailed away. The sea was rough and filled me with fear. The food was not the same, oh dear. The next stop was Genoa, and from there a train to Rome. Then again we embarked on the big ship till we docked in England, our new home. Victoria, the underground, oh, it gave me such a fright. With windows that looked into darkness, as if day had turned to night. Where were the birds of color? The buildings, the clothes, so drab and gray. And when we entered our home in Hackney, there were no maids to my dismay. I recall back home they said, "Go off far and wide, England Street paved with gold. For there your future is sunny and bright, though the winters are dark and cold." I may have been young and inexperienced, and yet I knew the other half had not been told. I repeat, I may have been young and inexperienced, and yet I knew the other half had not been told.